Hey everyone, welcome back. I'm Michael and we're going to be getting right back into some more Reddit stories. If you enjoy the video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. Now, without further ado, let's begin. This story was posted by a user named Falling For You Anon in the relationship subreddit. The post is titled, "The Aftermath of Being Cheated On While Pregnant." In April, when I was 12 weeks pregnant, I found out that my husband had recently started cheating on me with a girl at his work, and I still haven't gotten over it. We have been married since the summer of 2018, but we have been together since the summer of 2014. It's nearly our 9-year anniversary now, and I am currently 30 weeks pregnant with our first child. I always thought that if my partner ever cheated on me, I would be out the door in a hurry because it's a type of disrespect I could never tolerate. However, I never thought it would happen to me, especially after I had invested 8.5 years into this relationship. Plus, we have a house, 2 cars, 2 dogs, a cat, and a baby we both wanted for many years at that point. I know I am more sensitive right now due to the pregnancy, but it is now August and I am so tired of waking up hurting every day. After I found out about the affair, I confronted him and he admitted that he had started sleeping with her and had done so 3 times at that point. I was in my first trimester and he knew how sick I had been, literally spending all day every day throwing up and sleeping. He has a job that has always kept him pretty busy, but he would always check in with me throughout the day. I work from home and am self-employed, but it was something we had discussed in depth after the loss of my first pregnancy. We agreed that me being home to manage the house and pets was important. Plus, we both wanted me to be a stay-at-home mom whenever we did have a baby. So while I make less money, it was something we fully agreed upon together. When he would check in, it was always so sweet. He called me between meetings or while driving whenever he was free, and he would text me to announce his safe arrival every time he went anywhere. It was never a burden for me to ask him to check in. We both naturally wanted to talk during our free moments throughout the day. That's just how our relationship had always been. I gave him another chance when I confronted him because I was so blindsided. It didn't make sense to me then, and it still doesn't now, but I was 12 weeks along with a baby I had been wishing for years. And I had a vision of our family that I couldn't let go of. We agreed that he would go into work and end it with her the next morning. He didn't think it would be an issue because it was just sex and there were no feelings involved. Let it be known that this girl knew about me. I had stopped by his office many times for lunch visits with my husband, and he had photos of me on his computer and desk as constant reminders that I was real for both of them. He later told me that before the affair started, she would joke with him that I'm too hot for him and that she planned on stealing him away. She is apparently bisexual with a strong preference for women, and when my husband talked about her before the affair began, he described her as unattractive, something all the guys at work agreed upon. When he ended things with her, she apparently took it well at first, but then returned a few hours later begging him not to leave her. He told me she was crying and clinging to him. There were issues about abandonment that honestly did not concern me because I was his partner of almost 9 years and carrying his child. He assured me he had ended it. Next, he went to get tested and he tested clean. He showed me all the test results since this was an important stipulation for me. For the next month, I watched him leave every morning and broke down as soon as he was gone, sometimes begging him before he went to work to call in sick and stay home with me. I was a wreck. We had a vacation planned months in advance for May, and I somehow thought it would be good for us to get away and just be the 2 of us. I was counting down the seconds until that trip, keeping everything I was going through to myself and quickly deteriorating. During that month, I lost 22 pounds because I could not eat, and every time I did, I would throw up. My husband watched me in agony, a complete shell of who I once was, trying to grow our child while being unable to stomach food at all. It got so bad that my whole face broke out in what looked like hives from how hard my body was trying to throw up when there was nothing left inside me. Little blood vessels popped all over my skin from sobbing and vomiting all day. We went on our trip and it was painful. There were good moments, but I was still so broken and had no trust in him. Throughout that entire month, I felt something was still off. He gave me access to his phone and I would check it in front of him as well as whenever he was asleep or in the shower, just to be sure. After the vacation, things got really bad for me. The intuition I had felt back in April never really went away. It became so incredibly loud that I felt like I was going crazy. He told me he loved me, reassured me that it was really over with her, that he was going to be a good husband to me and the best father to our daughter. No matter how much I wanted to believe him, there was something inside me telling me he was lying. One morning while he showered, I went into the bathroom to pee and his phone was sitting on his pile of work clothes for when he got out. I grabbed it and took it with me while I peed, thinking it would be like every other time when I looked at his phone and found nothing. Instead, in his WhatsApp, there was a thread of messages with her from the night before. The day before had been a long work day for him, something I dreaded even before the affair because being apart from him for long hours made me miss him, but there was no way to avoid it. I remember offering to bring him food for lunch and he told me not to worry about driving, that he would bribe one of the guys into bringing him something so I didn't have to waste gas money. In reality, she was bringing him lunch while he was texting her at the same time he was texting me. Those texts haunt me even now. She had told him, "I miss you," and he replied with the same sentiment, so clearly they had progressed further in their relationship over the last month. When she brought him lunch, he told her, "I just want you and a burger," followed by messages hours later where they laughed about getting everyone out of the office inconspicuously so they could be alone. She said, "Now I get to have you." Reading those messages, 16 weeks pregnant and first thing in the morning, literally made me want to die. When confronted, he promised me that they didn't have sex even though it sounded like it would happen in those messages, but admitted that he had still been sleeping with her, just not that day, I guess. This was back in May. I left him the next day after I confronted him again, and he admitted that he never actually stopped. He tried to explain that his story was half true, that when he spoke with her, she came back crying and begging and then apparently forced him into an empty office where she tried to perform oral sex on him. He promised me that he stopped her and shoved her away, but she had managed to get his pants down and gotten close enough to touch him before he escaped. Nothing happened that day, he swore to me, but in his mind it was over then because during our initial conversation, I told him I would give him a second chance, but if he did this again, I would leave him. He counted this as doing it again, even though when he broke down and told me this, it sounded more like she assaulted him while he was saying no rather than him cheating again. But he didn't see it that way at the time. He thought I would leave if he told me the truth and figured he might as well not stop since I was going to find out eventually and leave him in the long run because he had already messed up. Now, fast forward to August. I have been living alone since May. I left him the day after I found out for the second time, going to stay with my aunt for a few days with my dogs. I ended up coming back to the house and kicking him out because it didn't seem fair to me that everyone besides him had to suffer. I was pregnant and dealing with two 6-year-old dogs who are very used to being homebodies. They were confused and stopped eating due to the stress. Plus, our cat, who is deeply bonded to me and is used to having me home with her all day, was left alone while he worked for over 10 hours. All of our animals are friends, so it was really unfair for everyone but my husband, who was the one who did the wrong thing in the first place. So now I am 30 weeks pregnant, preparing to sell our house and move back into my dad's house, and I am still so incredibly hurt. I really felt like this man was the love of my life and my soulmate. All of our friends whom I've spoken to about our separation have been absolutely shocked by how out of character this behavior has been for him. I cannot afford a lawyer until the house sells, and unfortunately I'm a sorry excuse for a woman because I sob whenever I think of the word divorce, even though I know that has to be one of the steps I take down the line. My family feels the same way because of how wonderful my husband was to me for 8 years. He was so emotionally supportive and sweet, and I like to think I was supportive of him as well. I lost my mom, who was my best friend. We together lost our first baby, and he dealt with going no contact with his mother. We were truly each other's rock through all of those moments, just to name a few. And now I'm carrying his daughter, whom I already love deeply. I know he hurt me and changed me as a person, but it's incredibly hard to forget the years of happiness we shared and accept that they seem to be over now. The frustrating thing is that I would probably take him back if he came to me and said all the right things, made the right promises, and made me believe him. Instead, I am living alone while growing this baby and taking care of the animals we picked and raised together for 6 and 2 years. I am dealing with this trauma by myself while he is essentially living with the girl he cheated on me with. Every time I drive past his apartment, her car is there, sometimes even when his car is gone. He promises that she doesn't have a key and that when the baby is born, she won't interfere with his role as a father. But at this point, it has been months of him knowing he is hurting me. We are still publicly married. His family has no idea about any of this. Only our mutual friends and my family know what has happened, though not all the details I've included in this post. I should mention that when I came face to face with this girl, she laughed at what she had done. When I told her that she broke apart my family and took my daughter's father away before she was even born, she literally shrugged and muttered, "Yeah, I know," while looking so smug about it. I only mention this because I know people will say not to blame the affair partner, but to only blame my husband for breaking his vows to me. However, I fully blame them both. She knew what she was doing, and so did he. She seems to enjoy knowing how powerful she was in this situation. He often tells me that he doesn't want to end our relationship, but that right now he isn't right for me. He says he cannot be who he was because he messed up so badly that he doesn't know how to fix it. Now he claims that monogamy just isn't for him, even though he and his affair partner are living together and clearly recreating the life we had, living very obviously in monogamy at this point. It hurts so much because he's already replaced me with her. Some 20-year-old girl is sleeping beside my husband, having meals with him, and sitting in his passenger seat. This is not how my life was supposed to go. I wish I could stay firm in hating him because, trust me, I do hate him. I've had several hours over the last few months where I've made sure he knows what he did to me and how much I despise him for ruining the woman I was before this betrayal. But I also still love him, and I want the family I was all but promised. We struggled to get pregnant for nearly 3 years, and the month I finally did get pregnant, I told him, if it doesn't happen for us, it doesn't happen. I wanted to be a mom, but if it's not in the cards, I will come to terms with it and know I can be fulfilled in our relationship without a baby. Then I shockingly did get pregnant, and it felt like everything was finally falling into place, that we would be happy together like I'd always pictured us being, but now with a little baby we both daydreamed about for years. I'm really unsure how Reddit works, and I know this post is long, so no one will probably read it. I'm not entirely sure why I'm writing it here anyway. In this situation, I know he is in the wrong. I don't need anyone to point that out to me. And I also don't want anyone calling me names for still loving this man who has disrespected and mistreated me so immensely over the last 4 months. It's just coming up on our anniversary, and I am desperately lonely in this quiet house that I now have to pack up all by myself. I wanted a place to express my feelings. If you comment, please be kind. I feel stupid and weak enough as it is. I've been with him since we were both barely 19 and moved straight from my childhood home into an apartment with him. I've not spent a single adult year alone, and I'm just really sad all the time and don't know what to do. I try to go no contact with him, but we're selling a house and I'm in my 3rd trimester with his baby. I just hate him and I hate myself. I want him to wake up and see what he's doing, but I don't think he ever will because he avoids accountability for his actions. It's not like I could ever trust him again anyway. Now I have to co-parent a child with him for the next several years, and I don't feel strong enough for any of the future anymore. I just don't understand how he could do this to me. User Rosebud said, "I am so sorry, OP. My heart aches reading this. I know this is hard, but you seem so strong and you will get through this. Take the time to grieve the loss of your marriage and the dream you had for it. I understand that you don't want any name calling directed at your husband, but please don't take him back. His betrayal is truly horrible, and his affair partner sounds toxic. His comments about not being monogamous and how you deserve better are just excuses for his behavior. You do deserve better, and one day he may realize what he has done. You will be living your best life while he remains on the sidelines. Sending you lots of hugs and wishing you strength and blessings." User 051 said, "I'm in tears reading this. Please know that you are strong and your worth is not dictated by another person. I know you love him, but think about his moral compass. Not only did he cheat on you, but he also did so when you were pregnant with a much-wanted baby. He then chose to be with someone who sounds like the spawn of the devil and is now living with her. He has absolutely no redeeming qualities. You love the man you thought he was. Imagine if, in 20 years, your daughter came to you with the same experience. You would be outraged for her. You deserve to be treated with dignity and respect at the very least. Believe me, I know you're looking at this from the perspective of having been together for 8 years, but that's just a drop in the bucket. I left after 18 years because he destroyed me and affected my children. We are thriving now, all of us. My only regret is not leaving sooner. You're vulnerable and seeking love and comfort, but believe me, you will find that in everyone else in your circle, not from him. I would also recommend telling his family about what happened. What you need to do is get into therapy or join a support group or a confidence building or mindfulness group. Anything that can help you in this moment. When that baby is born, join mother and baby groups to build that support network. If you take him back, he will destroy you and your daughter. You both deserve better. Feel free to message me anytime." User Solara AB said, "Both he and she sound awful. I strongly suspect that one or the other will cheat again, and it will blow up, leading him to regret what he did. The whole thing about him saying you wouldn't take him back the second time and that he should just go through with it was absolute nonsense. I couldn't tell if you actually took that seriously, but you really shouldn't. It's hard to put a positive spin on such an awful situation, but the severe lack of character he has shown repeatedly indicates that this was a foregone conclusion. You shouldn't take him back, even if he says all the right things. I can't help but wonder if he bailed on you just to avoid the difficulties of a pregnancy." 10 months later, OP gave us an update. It's now June 11th and my daughter just turned 8 months old. My water broke and I drove myself to the hospital where I labored and gave birth alone. My daughter was born 2 weeks early and was completely healthy with no issues. She is doing amazing and the love I have for her is so all-encompassing that sometimes I don't even know what to do. She's a great baby and is loved not just by me but also by my dad, my brothers, and my aunt. She is adored by my whole family. Since we live with my dad, her birth has brought all of us closer together than we've been in a long time. I absolutely love being her mom. My ex-husband was served divorce papers in February by my dad, who volunteered to do it, and our divorce was finalized in May. The way my feelings for him changed almost instantly after I gave birth to my daughter was shocking. It was as if the moment she was born, just the thought of him disgusted me. He visits for about an hour once a week since she has been born. We have a parenting plan in the works, but every time it's drawn up by my lawyer, he finds something wrong with it and chooses not to sign. It's been very irritating dealing with this man whom I once loved but now don't recognize, especially as he pretends on social media to be an active, attentive father while I do literally everything for this baby and he does the bare minimum he can get away with. This next part may be very shocking, but the girl he cheated on me with and moved into an apartment with directly from our marital home ended up cheating on him literally within the same week that our divorce was finalized and she was kicked out of his place. It took about a year, but he did come back groveling after all, which was absolutely wild to me. Now, for the truly shocking part of this update, I have met a man. After spending my entire pregnancy alone and heartbroken, I had sworn off men and relationships, but this one just kind of appeared in my life. I have horrible trust issues now, and it's been really hard considering the deep betrayal I experienced last year. However, my boyfriend is the most gentle, calm, understanding guy I could have found. We met when my daughter was 2 months old. He started taking me on little weekend dates for just a couple of hours at a time and was always very considerate of me having a newborn. In March, we had the conversation to define our relationship. In these 6 months, he has met my family and has become one of my daughter's favorite people. I've met his brother and sister-in-law, and when his parents come into town later this month, he's introducing me and we're all going to dinner together. I feel lucky to have this man in my life as a stable father figure for my daughter, and I really hope he is who he has been showing me he is. Obviously, when my ex-husband came to apologize and cry for what he had done to me, I was already very committed to my boyfriend. Even if I hadn't been, the answer would have been no. Our house has not yet sold, and I'm kind of losing my mind about it, but there's nothing that can really be done to help that situation. I know this may sound like revenge porn, but I promise it's not. Karma has just been working hard for me and my little bean. My boyfriend dotes on us and makes me believe in love again. He is so handsome, so sweet, and the complete opposite of who my ex-husband ended up being. I really hope he is a good egg because I accidentally fell in love with him when I didn't mean to. However, I now know that I was strong enough to leave a marriage with a baby on the way, so if he ends up screwing me over, I know I'll be strong enough to leave him too. The fact that my ex's affair partner cheated on him absolutely tickles me, to be completely honest. I'm still living with my dad, but honestly, it could absolutely be worse. My dad helps as much as he can and loves his grandbaby so much. It's been so sweet watching him turn into this absolute softie of a grandpa. I don't know if anyone remembers me or my post or if this update is necessary at all, but here it is. I am definitely not in love with the guy who cheated on me, left me, and is an absent father to the baby I grew and raised all on my own. A deleted user said, "As a courtesy, I went back and read the original post. It was honestly heartbreaking. It sounds to me like his talk of being a father was empty platitudes, and when reality struck, he self-sabotaged as an escape. Then he got cheated on, but what did he expect? To live happily ever after with someone who had shown they had zero regard for others. I have no sympathy. I'm glad you are having a better time of it now. I hope it continues for you. User Little Cats said, if they will cheat with you, they will cheat on you. His karma came swiftly for him. Women like that are disgraceful. I will never understand the appeal of going after a married man. There is nothing to be gained when you try to take a man who is married. You just prove he wasn't a prize in the first place. I'm so glad you and your baby are doing well and that your family rallied together for you both. You are strong enough, and that is certainly something to celebrate and rejoice in. This next post was made in the Nuclear Revenge subreddit by a user named A Quiet Borderline. The post is titled A Mother's Instigation, A Daughter's Completion. I promised my late friend that I wouldn't share this story until at least a year after her death. That time has passed, and this is nothing short of beautiful. Cruel, but beautiful. I'm going to switch to first-person point of view. This is the story as my late friend told me. I was an only child to 2 loving parents. My mom had a difficult pregnancy and an even harder labor. It was so bad that the doctor advised them never to try again. Because he didn't want his wife to die, my dad got a successful vasectomy. I was sad that I didn't have any siblings, but I had a happy childhood until I became a young adult. When I was in the middle of college, my mom was diagnosed with stage 4 high-grade serous ovarian cancer. It's the most aggressive form of ovarian cancer, and both my mom's older sister and mother had died from it. We knew her odds weren't good. I don't know what my dad was thinking. I really don't. But he started an affair with his coworker, a woman just a few years older than me. The coworker began integrating herself into my and my mom's lives. She'd go shopping for us, keep the house in order, help me with homework, and even sit with my mom during chemotherapy when my dad and I weren't there. And no, I had no clue at all. I just thought the coworker was being kind to a family going through hard times. My mom fought hard against the cancer, but the odds just weren't in her favor. One day while visiting her in hospice, we were playing chutes and ladders. Mom got very quiet and then told me, "You do know your dad isn't planning to reverse his vasectomy, right?" I was surprised and wondered what she was talking about. "Yeah, I know," I said. "Why?" Mom just looked at me and said, "I think you'd best keep it in mind." We continued playing, and when I left for the night, I kissed her goodbye. She said, "You'll be fine on your own." She died that night. I believe she knew she was going to die and didn't want to scare me. Once again, the coworker was right by our side. She helped us plan the funeral, brought us food, assisted around the house, and slowly started moving her things in. It was like putting a frog in a pot of water and gradually raising the temperature. It was slow. It was gradual. About a year later, she had completely moved in and become part of our lives. I don't remember what made me suspicious enough to start digging, but dig I did. I learned that the affair began shortly after my mom's diagnosis. I was sickened, furious, and saddened. I took out my cell phone, ready to confront my dad and the coworker with what I had discovered. But something else struck me. During one of her visits, the coworker mentioned to my mom and me that she wished to have children with her fiance. My mom knew about the affair, and she trusted me to spill the beans. But I wanted to twist the knife further. As a result, I decided to play the long game. It was a gamble, one that had a good chance of not paying off, but it was one I was willing to take. I kept my mouth shut. I watched as they courted, got engaged, and married 3 years later. I squealed with delight when they announced their engagement to me, wore a proud smile on their wedding day, and made a toast at the reception. I even took extra steps to hide test results from my dad's urologist in such a way that the coworker wouldn't find them, but my dad would. Believe me, I was internally screaming. I wanted the world to know how they hurt my mom and me during her darkest hour. I came dangerously close several times. But I said nothing, knowing the payoff would be worth it. Time passed. We played happy family. I got married to my wonderful husband and had children. My dad and the coworker played doting grandparents, but I could see from the pained look on the coworker's face that she was bemoaning her empty nest. Just as I was beginning to give up hope, the day came. The coworker and I had started a tradition of getting together for coffee shortly after my mom's death. We would talk about girl things. We laughed, cried, loved, and lived. That sort of thing. That day, the coworker was sad and sullen. I could tell she had been crying, so I asked what was wrong. I couldn't believe my ears when I heard why. She had been struggling to get pregnant for years, but assumed it was stress from work. Then her periods started coming fewer and farther between. She decided to go to the doctor to find out why. It turned out she was entering perimenopause and that her chances of successfully getting pregnant had dwindled. The doctor essentially told her that her childbearing years were over. As I crooned sympathetic noises, the coworker said, "It doesn't make sense, we tried so hard to have kids, but I wasn't able to get pregnant, I don't know why. It was then that I knew it was time." "You mean Dad didn't tell you?" I asked. "Didn't tell me what?" she replied. I fought every urge to smile as I played the "it's not my right to tell" and "I can't believe he didn't tell you" cards until she practically begged me for an answer. I should have won an Oscar for my performance. I told her about the vasectomy and that my dad had no intention of reversing it. You should have seen the coworker. She completely deflated like a balloon. Her shoulders slumped, she bowed her head, and she sobbed into her hands. I wanted to rejoice, I wanted to rub her face in it. However, I knew that would make me look like the bad guy. So instead, I hugged her and rubbed her back, telling her that my dad was horrible for not telling her, that she deserved a different outcome, and that he completely wasted her time. Again, I fought not to smile. When she left, I told her I would always be there for her, but deep down, I knew she wasn't going to be part of my life anymore. Why would she? I was the daughter of the man who betrayed her. Once she had left and I was alone, I wept with joy and relief that my plan had paid off, but I also felt deep sorrow that my mom hadn't been there to see it. That was the last time I saw or talked to the coworker. A few weeks later, my dad called me in a fury. The coworker had packed her bags and left, slapping him with divorce papers. She yelled at him for not being honest about his vasectomy and for having no intention of reversing it. She pointed out that he knew she wanted kids and that he had wasted all of her childbearing years. She also accused him of leaving it to me to tell her. He then said, "How could you do that to us? We loved you." In a cold tone, I replied, "You and Mom did a good job teaching me how to keep secrets." I hung up and that was it. I never spoke to him again either. The last I heard, he and the coworker were divorced and everyone shunned him because of the secret he kept. I know I won't be joining my mom after I die. What I did was cruel. It was horrible. I should have done what my mom wanted and spilled the beans beforehand instead of wasting the coworker's youth and childbearing years. Even if she could adopt, she would probably die before her children were fully grown. Although it's hard to have compassion and mercy for a woman who integrated herself into my dying mom's life while she was sleeping with my mom's husband. User the Aft said, "Cancer is a terrible disease. I'm sorry for your loss. It seems that cancer does something strange to the other partner. I wonder how many partners cheat while their spouse is dying. There is a guy who owns a fence company here. He looks a bit like Gollum. While his wife was dying, her story made the news a lot. He wrapped all the company vehicles in pink with her name on them to promote cancer awareness. You would see these vehicles all over town, yet very quickly after she died, he was engaged to a known gold digger who seems to suffer from single white female syndrome. Wanting to be an important socialite, riding the coattails of this deceased woman. You would frequently see the gold digger driving around in one of these vehicles for months after the death. It was in such bad taste. They got married and posted all over Facebook, complete with an elaborate and awful engagement video. After they married, he built an enormous house. I always wondered how the deceased woman's children feel about their dad's new relationship occurring so suddenly after their mother's death. Thank you so much for making it to the end of the video, and thank you also to partner of the channel, Gamersubs. Use code DLAM to support the channel and get 10% off of your purchase, link in the description. I'm sure many of you like me have a hankering for daily caffeine, so go check them out. Lately, I've been a big fan of Titty Milk and Acid Rain, but they've got dozens of other flavors for y'all to try out. Anyway, thanks again for reaching the end, and I hope you all have an amazing passage of the next 24 hours.